You know that person at the party who nods along when everyone's talking about last night's game, but is secretly wondering why a ball going into a net is worth this much emotion? Yeah, that's not ignorance. That's not being boring. That might actually be something fascinating about how their brain is wired. If you've ever sat through a Super Bowl party and felt like an anthropologist studying a foreign culture, welcome. You're about to feel very seen. Today, we're breaking down the psychology of people who just don't care about sports, the ones society calls disconnected, but science calls something else entirely. Here's the thing. For millions of people, sports isn't just entertainment. It's tribal identity. Rooting for a team activates the same neural pathways as belonging to a group. It's dopamine, oxytocin, and evolutionary survival instinct wrapped in a jersey. But for people who don't follow sports, that tribal bonding just happens elsewhere. In fandoms, in music scenes, in niche online communities, in deep friendships built around ideas instead of scores. They're not missing the tribe gene, they just found a different tribe. Psychologists talk about something called sensory processing sensitivity. Some people are deeply stimulated by fast-paced, high-stakes, emotionally volatile events, a last-minute goal, a buzzer beater. The unpredictability is the thrill. But highly sensitive people and those with rich inner lives often find that level of external intensity exhausting, not boring, overstimulating. Their nervous system is already running a lot of tabs. They don't need the chaos of a stadium to feel alive. A great conversation, a complex film, a piece of music that hits different. That does it for them. Here's something wild. A lot of non-sports people aren't anti-competition, they're anti-meaninglessness. They need a why. They need stakes that feel personal. Sports, to them, can feel like watching two groups of strangers fight over something that won't change their life on Monday morning. But give them a documentary about those same athletes, a film about struggle, defeat, identity, redemption. Suddenly, they're crying at the screen. They don't lack emotion, they need context for their emotion to attach to. Let's be honest, a lot of people who love sports were just never given permission not to. For men specifically, sports fandom is often a social script. You inherit the team, you inherit the rituals, you inherit the Sunday obligation, and somewhere in there you never actually asked yourself, do I enjoy this or do I enjoy belonging? People who opt out of sports aren't always wired differently. Sometimes they're just more comfortable questioning which performances they're putting on for other people. That self-awareness, psychologists link it to higher internal locus of control, a sense that your life is shaped by your choices, not by what's expected of you. Now, some people disconnect from sports and from shared culture generally, not out of preference, but out of isolation. Depression that makes everything feel pointless, social anxiety that makes joining any collective experience feel threatening. So it's worth asking, are you opting out of sports because you've genuinely found what lights you up? Or are you opting out of everything, and sports is just where you notice it first? One is self-knowledge. The other is worth paying attention to. Studies consistently show that people who don't follow sports tend to invest that same tribal energy, that emotional bandwidth into things like creative pursuits, deep reading, philosophical conversations, or niche passions that most people have never heard of. They're not less passionate. They're not less social. They're just running a different operating system. And here's the quiet irony. The same personality traits linked to not caring about sports, openness to experience, need for cognitive complexity, preference for depth over breadth, those are the same traits linked to creativity, original thinking, and intellectual curiosity. So if you're someone who glazes over during sports talk, who's never understood the grief of a championship loss, who'd rather spend Sunday doing literally anything else, you're not broken. You're not superior either. You're just someone whose sense of meaning lives somewhere else. And honestly, knowing where your meaning lives, that's rarer than any trophy. Hit subscribe if this made you feel less like the odd one out, and tell me in the comments, what do you obsess over instead? Because I guarantee it's more interesting than you think.